Development Program on Thrust Areas of Research in Civil Engineering, Phase 2. So on behalf of Department of Civil Engineering, so I welcome today's speakers. So Mr. Yokesh Sirikonda sir. So he is a proprietor of MOS Energy Living Space, Property Developers, Madurai. So it gives me a great pleasure to introduce today's chief guest. So Mr. Yokesh Sirikonda has completed his bachelor's in civil engineering, so and master's in remote sensing and geoinformation technology. So I'm pursuing PhD at MKU in remote sensing and GIS. So he served as many roles in various organizations around the world, including Venkadatri Construction Madurai, Kulkarni Quantity Surveys Dubai, Kellogg Brown and Roots, so Aldar Properties Abu Dhabi, so Louis Berger Abu Dhabi, and Al Fahim Group Abu Dhabi from June 2000 to May 2017. So currently he is the proprietor of MOS Living Energy Spaces, a property developers based on out of Madurai. So proprietor of MOS Lal Traders Construction Material Dealership, trustee of Palkar Hospital Trust Madurai, trustee of Nayaki Home Trust Madurai, and industry member of Internal Quality Assurance Cell of Madurai Kamarajar University. So a member of Indo-German Chamber of Commerce and a member of Paul Harris Fellow of Rotary Club of Madurai West. He also a member of various professional society, including Chartered Institute of Arbitrators London and Save International USA. He also serves as the accredited member mediator of Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors London, so and is certified cost consultant of ASCI USA. So he is expert in large scale procurement and FIDIC based contracts and contributors to smart city developments. An excellent motivational speaker and a multi-talented person. So it gives me immense pleasure to welcome you, sir. So once again, I welcome you all for Factory Development Program. So now kindly take over the section, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the wonderful session, wonderful introduction. I want to have this session a bit interactive with all participants today. So if, all of you can switch on your mics as long as there are no disturbances, I think that is going to be of real help today. Am I audible?
So it's audible, sir.
Okay, so we'll have it as interactive session, right? Hello?
Sir?
Can we have it as an interactive session?
So okay, sir.
Among all participants. So I would like to, really hear out from you the understanding of remote sensing and GIS, so that this session can reach much better. Okay, so let us start. And on the first slide, what is remote sensing and how can you relate remote sensing? That's something you know. Can I have answers from participants? Whatever you know, you can share it with me.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Remote sensing is nothing but a communication. It's a communication without any devices. Like I am standing in one side of the road and another standing another side of the road, and I'll just give a signal that just show my palms to wait. That means when vehicle is coming, don't cross the road. So that is a communication. And even a TV remote is also it's a remote sensing. Means there is no direct contact. Physically, there is no direct contact.
I would agree to your later part of the answer partially, but your first part is not the right explanation. That's fine. Anybody else who has an understanding of what remote sensing is? Yeah, but don't Google it, please. Yeah, give me your own answer. Anyone? Wait for 5 more seconds. Okay, so before we come to a understanding of what remote sensing is, to simply put what remote sensing is, I'll give you two simple examples. One is the X-rays that we do in hospitals. The other one is the scan, the CT scan or the ultrasound scan that we do in hospitals. So what we do with X-rays, anybody can answer? And how does X-ray work? Friends, am I audible? Hello.
It gives the information inside our body.
Very good. Very good. And how does it work?
The object, sir.
Exactly. That's exactly the word that I want to hear. It gives information inside the body without touching whatever it is. Yeah, without opening the body parts or whatever. You're going to get information either by X-ray or by different kind of scans. Yeah, ultrasound, CT scan, whatever it is. So that's exactly what remote sensing is. So these are sensors that will work based on emissions and reflections. The only difference is we do it in a larger scale where the satellites are used to do this job. So the satellites are engaged with sensors. Specific remote sensing satellites are nowadays revolving around us, and they do the job. So what is remote sensing? Remote sensing, as per United States Geological Survey, is the process of detecting and monitoring the physical characteristics of an area by measuring its reflected and emitted radiation at a distance. So what we really do is you really go use the satellites, sense the physical properties, and nowadays it's even more precise. You can also look into a different type of sensors basically, but we will not go into that part. Today we are only talking about the applications of remote sensing and GIS. Yeah. So the friend who responded to it rightly said, so without touching the physical feature, we are trying to understand what that is and how it is expanded across the geography of the earth. So that is all remote sensing is all about. Then the next question is, what is GIS? And give one classic example of remote sensing GIS put together. Anyone? Friends, I would like to see all your participation because this is going to be really interesting going forward.
GIS stands for Geographic Information System.
Sorry, I'm not able to hear you. Let me just adjust my audio just a moment. Yeah, go ahead and give me an answer.
GIS means Geo Information System. So usually
what is your understanding? How is it done? What is your understanding of this?
It is done by a satellite, which is a stationary GPS, what we call geoposition system. To monitor the activities like our climatic changes like clouds, etc.
Okay, I'm not getting into the application part of it.
Okay.
I'm trying to understand what is GIS. We use GIS for different applications. Yeah. So how a satellite image is used using GIS? No worries. I'll get into the definition part. But can you give me one classic example of where remote sensing and GIS that we daily use? All of us use it daily. Give me one example.
Google Maps.
Exactly. Google Maps is one best example, and the evolution of Google Maps have really changed the whole information scenario, I'm sure you'll take cognizance of this. Yeah. So what is GIS? GIS is a framework of gathering, managing, and analyzing data. Yeah. So how do we do this? Yeah, I'm going to get into the next slide. But then if you look into the explanation part of it, GIS integrates many types of data. Yeah, be it geographical data, be it external data source through Excel sheets or databases, Oracle databases, whatever. It is all integrated to make smarter decisions. Yeah, when I studied MSc in GIS, it was defined as a decision-making tool. Now the definition of GIS is slightly different, where it is more called as a tool for making smarter decisions. Yeah, so it is gathering, managing, analyzing the data, and integrating and coming to a conclusion whether this whatever decision you got to make, you can use this information and make the decision which are required. So the classic example is Google Maps that we are using day in and day out. Okay. Now, to understand better, how remote sensing and GIS are interrelated to each other. Can GIS work independently? Can just satellite images help without even processing the data that we have got from satellite images? All these, how are we really going to understand the concept of remote sensing and GIS and how they are interrelated to each other? So, does anyone have this understanding of raster and vector image? Anyone? Friends?
We have heard, but we don't remember correctly.
Okay, so all of us have a smartphone, right? So we do take photographs, and when we really want to zoom in and see, at one point in time, you will have this pixel. If you look into the raster part of it, it will pixelate at one point in time. You cannot zoom in more than that, right? I'm sure all of you have experienced that. Yes? Friends?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So then what is vector image? I only see one person answering. I'm not seeing others participating in this discussion at all. That'll be great if you can, all of you can participate in this. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Data represent in points or lines or polygons.
Very good. One example of vector image, if you can, so that all of us can understand. Give us one example of vector image.
Tropical signboard.
Sorry?
Tropical signboards or map.
Yeah. So if I'm sure all of you have used AutoCAD. AutoCAD, yeah. All of us have used AutoCAD.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you use AutoCAD, you must have seen something that whatever zoom in you do, it is still there. It won't pixelate, like what happens in the raster image. Have you seen all that? Friends?
There will be no clarity.
In raster image, yes, at one point in time you will miss the clarity, but in AutoCAD, when you keep on zooming in, it will take to the maximum possible, and it all depends on what kind of extent of drawing you're having it on the AutoCAD. Have you experienced that?
Yes, but there is an option there to regenerate. We have to press the regen button, then only that.
No. I'm going to get into how raster image can be converted to vector image, which is all GIS is all about. The basic understanding is raster image will pixelate at one point in time, which only means that there is no data to it. But vector image can be taken to the level extent possible, and you can keep adding data so that we can get to the minute information, micro information level. Yeah, so that the decisions can be made very, very precisely. All right. This is the basic understanding I would like you to have, the difference between raster and vector data. Yeah. So now you think with this next image, you will clearly understand what this is about. This is your own college, NJP Institute of Technology. This is a satellite image which I took from Google Maps. So when you expand this, when you zoom in, at one point in time, you will have it pixelated, yeah, which is the raster image. The second one that you see below is the vector image, yeah. Now, the raster image is taken from the satellite, and the vector image is created by using GIS applications like ArcGIS, and you have even AutoCAD nowadays can be used for creating vector images. Now, I hope you can understand it better now. Friends, is it clear?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So, who's the moderator of the session today? Hello. Vignesh? Vignesh?
Sir?
Are you in?
So yes,
Vignesh,
sir.
I'm looking forward for all your participation, Vignesh.
Sure, sir.
I could really, go through this slide so quickly, but then your understanding is really important for me. All of you should really understand these concepts, so that I would like to have this so interactive.
Okay, sir. Okay, sure, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So I think you have now understood the difference between a raster and vector image. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So how it really works? Yeah. So we are talking about satellites. We are talking about raster images, vector images. How does it all really work? Yeah. So you need information for a specific area. Say, for example, Coimbatore city. Yeah. So what you need, you want to use remote sensing and GIS to find out what the real data, and to make a decision for something. All right. So how does it work? So firstly, you need to have a satellite image of Coimbatore. Yeah. So you order this with ISRO commercial section, and get image for Coimbatore with the best possible resolution. So what they then do is you pay a fee for it, and they get you the image in a week or 14 days time, the satellite imagery. So now that you have the satellite imagery, what you do is you need to go and digitize, which is what you convert the raster image to a vector image. Yeah. So you go and digitize the satellite data and to the level possible, and you have a GIS process map in a vector form with you. There are different applications available, such as ArcGIS, AutoCAD, where you can convert the raster image to a vector image. All right. Now that you have a digitized map, which is the process map, the vector map, and what you need to do is you need to look for other databases that you have. Yeah. Let us put into perspective. Yeah. For example, the COVID scenario in Coimbatore. Yeah, the whole Coimbatore was seriously impacted, and I think it continues to be the case. Now you want to see why this is the case, and why it is less in other cities, why it is high in Coimbatore. Yeah. So you've decided to use remote sensing and GIS to identify the reasons. So what you do is you take a satellite image of Coimbatore, go and vectorize it, digitize it, and have it in a vector form. Then you go to different hospitals, or probably the Coimbatore Corporation has all the information that in these hospitals, these are the case numbers. For example, one hospital has 1,000 cases, one hospital has 10 cases, and one hospital surprisingly has 1 case, and another hospital say 500. So this is the data that you have, but you're not able to understand why there is a discrepancy. So you immediately get into the map, and you spot on the different hospitals in the different areas, and you link the data. So this hospital has 1,000, this hospital has 500, this hospital has 2,000, whatever it is. Then you look into the area, the geographical area. Does this have to do with anything associated with the number of cases in the hospital? You ask a question. Yeah. So what you do is link the available data with the map and go on to make your analysis. Now, finally, you can come to a conclusion. Say, for example, you have areas like Singanallur, you have areas like Araspuram, and different other areas. Yeah, probably you can come to a conclusion that the COVID infection is very high in Singanallur, but not that serious in Araspuram. Yeah, without GIS, probably you couldn't have come to this kind of a conclusion. Now, the more the data, you can precisely identify where the problem is. You can precisely make your own decisions using GIS as a tool. Is that clear? I'm just trying to give a very simple and pragmatic example for the condition that we are facing today.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sir, one question.
Yeah.
I'm from Karnataka. I'm unable to understand the places you have mentioned.
Okay. Okay.
Do you mean that it's a population density or more number of the buildings detected from the map means more population, hence more COVID cases, hence more contamination?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is whatever questions you have will, there will be answers for any sorts of questions. You will find different answers for different scenarios. All we need to do is to see for a geographical area, what is the number of cases? Again, by digitizing the maps that you have and linking the available databases to those maps, and you can really identify which area has more infection, which area has less infection, so that you can give your attention to the specific area and see how COVID can be mitigated, how COVID cases can be reduced. So this is completely analyzing of data with the help of maps and geographical information. You could also have different other information by the government. Yeah, for example, the age group, the demographics of specific areas could be different. The lifestyle of people would be different from area to area. So you can link all those to see, how the COVID behaves in specific area. The biggest advantage is GIS is a tool that can give you precise information with more number of data that you use for processing it. When there are less data available, of course, whatever you given is what you get it back from any GIS assessment tool. So the more the data, the precise the answers from a GIS system put together. Is that clear?
Yes, I got it. But I don't think the importance of satellite comes in, because unless we give the data...
See, as I told you, not every time you need a satellite. Probably you have a raster map of Coimbatore already, or for the whole of Karnataka, for example. You already have it. Not every time you need a satellite map. But in this instance, in the scenario where, for example, whole of Karnataka, there is COVID prevalent in very specific pockets. At least for the case of Tamil Nadu, we know for a reason that in Coimbatore, the cases are very high compared to other cities in Tamil Nadu. So you can really use the maps to really identify why is it so? What are the reasons for Coimbatore to have so much of infection? Is it because of all factories which are open where in other cities are closed? Is it because of people coming out of their residences? Many such scenarios. You could really interlink and come to a conclusion. You don't really need a satellite map every time. Yeah, only when there is a need for a specific area, then you go for it.
Okay.
Yeah. So can I get into the next slide? Is this clear? Is the basics? Did I attempt to make you understand of the basics of remote sensing and GIS?
Yes.
Do you have any questions at this stage?
No, sir. No.
I'm happy to answer. We can open this up for questions because we have 2 hours. Anyone? So should we get into the next slide?
Okay.
Yeah. Can you be a bit louder? I'm not able to hear. I don't know if my... Speaker is not. I'll set my volume again higher. Okay. Okay, so let us get into the next slide. Okay, so our topic today is applications of remote sensing and GIS in public realm. What is your understanding of public realm? Anyone? Anyone?
Can you repeat the question, sir? What is the public realm?
What is public realm?
It's the real situation of the population. Means how the people are really moving around. Means whether they are traveling or gathering somewhere else or doing
No.
any other activities.
No, but it is associated with public, people in public spaces, but that is not precisely the answer. Yeah, give a try. And I appreciate whatever you're trying to answer me.
Means how people are traveling, how railways, trains and aeroplanes are moving, because they are all public to the case.
Yeah. Well, you are somewhat close, but the answer is any area that is accessible to public, such as streets, pathways, parks, big shopping malls, theaters, whatever it is. Yeah. So that is all put together called as public realm. All right.
Okay.
So this is exactly what public realm is. See, now what is happening is in today's time, India being a very historic country, we are trying to make all cities smarter, and the smart city projects are happening across the geography of India. Yeah. So now, in order for a city to be smart, it is not just a city carries a QR code to it. All facilities in the city must be accessible to everyone, and should meet whatever standards they are. Yeah. There is a audio which is disturbing. Can you switch off the mic? Whoever it is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So anything that is accessible to public is public realm. Let us put it simply this way. Yeah. So how remote sensing and GIS comes to play in all of this? Yeah. There is a city already there. Say, for example, in India, there are many historical cities. Yeah. And the government is trying to make those cities smarter. We need to have clean streets. We need to have defined roadways, defined pedestrian walkways, gardens, streetscaping, shopping malls, public accessible toilets, whatever it is. Government is doing in whatever way the specifications are defined. The government is doing its best to create all cities to smart cities. Yeah. So it is very important that in all these smart city attempts that the government is doing, remote sensing and GIS are the key applications that helps the city to be converted to a smarter one. In absence of all these GIS systems, the satellite image, I think it is extremely difficult for a city to be converted to a smart city, because there are various factors. Now, in today's time, we are all talking about green. We are very specific about the environment. We don't want a lot of carbon emissions. We are seeing in the case of Delhi, where pollution is extremely high compared to other cities, and probably one of the most polluted cities on earth today. So we don't want such a thing to happen. Yes, the city looks good, but it is polluted. We don't want that to be the case. Yes, the city is good, but it doesn't have proper roads. We don't want that to be the case. Yes, the city is good, but it is not maintained properly. We don't want that to be the case. The city looks very good in one part of the area. The other older city looks horribly bad, and it is not giving an impression to anyone who visits the city. So this is not, this is what I think we are trying to address in all these smart city initiatives that the government has initiated. Now, without our remote sensing, without GIS, nothing of this could really kick off or could really even get executed. And finally, it is so difficult to manage a city in terms of sweeping of roads, cleaning of pedestrian walkways, keeping the city clean. All of this will need remote sensing and GIS. This is something very important for any civil engineer to know, and a career in remote sensing and GIS. I think going forward, it is not just a one-time thing. Like every city has now become a smart city. What is the point? Why do we need remote sensing and GIS anymore? No, that is not the question. You need remote sensing and GIS even to maintain the cities. So this is something the scenario not just in India, even in Gulf countries, where all the cities are now getting built. For example, Yas Island in Abu Dhabi. It is a city. Abu Dhabi is a big emirate within the United Arab Emirates, but then the government is keen to build newer cities. Every time you will find housing projects, you will find theme parks, getting built in a massive scale. Like $10 billion, $50 billion being spent on creating new cities. One example I would like to share with you, the one that I experienced in Abu Dhabi, in Yas Island. Yeah. So Yas Island is a mix of everything, where you'll find residential areas, you find major theme parks like Ferrari World, Sea World, and these major attractions of UAE brings a lot of people to that island. Then there are big malls, huge waterways. Everything is integrated within that Yas Island project. Now, Yas Island is a $50 billion development, and I think it is even more than that. And without GIS, without use of remote sensing, it would have been so difficult to build it. Not just that, Yas Island is setting a benchmark. For example, there is one solid waste management system in Yas Island where it is called a vacuum system, and you don't have trucks or the trash bins that will be located in different locations. You will only have a vacuum suction system, where in every strategical location you will have a garbage disposal area. All you do is take the garbage, split it into biodegradable or non-degradable. You need to split it at source, and you go there and you dump it into that kind of bin. So what that is it is a vacuum suction, it's simply a vacuum cleaner. It sucks in all the garbage and it transports through specific pipelines, and it gets to a garbage dump area. Now, this is probably the third or fourth installation in the entire world. Why I'm saying this is without GIS, the system would have been so difficult to plan. Without, the technology is new, that is appreciated. But then this is the kind of the cities that people are liking to build nowadays. Now, in India, yes, we are talking about smart cities where older roads are removed and new roads are laid with granite. But then that alone is not just going to make it a smart city. It has to, make sure that everything is met, every parameter is met. For example, less pollution, industries in different specific locations, schools in specific locations, within the residential area, schools within the residential area, community schools, all these, come into as issues while building a smart city. So in any future city, for sure, in the next 20 or 30 years, is certainly going to be smart, but without remote sensing or GIS, that is not going to happen. With that thought, we'll get into the next slide. How remote sensing and GIS are used in public realm. See, there are multiple. Okay, before we get into the slide, are there any questions you would like to ask? I'll be happy to answer you. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Any questions? I would like to see more number of questions. Yeah. just me speaking is not going to really help you. I think your participation is really important.
So you mentioned that waste collection by vacuum.
Yeah.
What is the system behind it? Means you are telling that once there must be some sensors when the dust bins or waste bins are full, then only it will.
Yeah. That is not remote sensing. Those are mechanical systems. Yeah, hydraulic or mechanical systems. But what I'm saying is to plan that network of the pipelines. Yeah, to plan the network of pipelines from one location to the other. And it should not clash with any other services. It should not clash with underground water pipeline. It should not clash with any foundation of the buildings. It should not clash with any other gas pipelines, for example. So here is where GIS comes to play. All these clash points will be eliminated using GIS. We are not talking about the system. We are talking about how the system was planned before it was built. The planning of the system has most certainly used GIS, without which it would have been difficult to have the system built in the ASERAN, because there was a gas pipeline, there was a 22 kV electrical dedicated corridor. There was for many buildings and their foundation. You cannot have this vacuum tubes under the foundations of the building. So all these were only eliminated to create a perfect network for this vacuum system using GIS. This is what I'm trying to tell you.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So how remote sensing and GIS used in public realm? Yeah, there are, as I told you, multiple applications. It is not just one. Nowadays, there are more number of applications that are further integrated with GIS tool to get a better understanding. Yeah. So let us have few examples, because this is a really 2-year diploma course. I think we are trying to finish it off for a basic understanding in 2 hours. So I'll touch base on the key applications, which is the urban development, smart city infrastructure revitalization, the roads and traffic, real estate including retail. So we'll just limit our discussions to these 3 topics. I think only to finish these 3 topics we need another 2 hours, but then we'll rush in to finish, have an understanding of how remote sensing and GIS are used in these areas. Okay, so we are talking about urban development. We are talking about public realm. Public realm is very much an integrated part of a larger urban development. You're going to build a big city. We need to talk about the public realm. We need to talk about how people are going to use it, how people are going to be crowded in a specific place. Do we have sufficient parking for those areas? Do we need to build something specific for allowing all the cars to be parked, all the 2-wheelers to be parked? Are we trying to crowd people in one place, for example, to have a amphitheater or something? Or should we have more number of amphitheaters so the crowd can be spread? Whatever it is, yeah. So there are, when you're talking about urban development, you need to really address the public realm. What the width of roads? Do we have sufficient width of roads? Do we have sufficient, utility corridor? Do we have sufficient space for pedestrian walk? Do we have sufficient pedestrian people gathering areas? All these needs to be considered, which is part of the public realm and the urban development. Yeah, we're also going to talk about smart city infrastructure revitalization. Now, what is the word? You see the word revitalization. What is it? Can anyone throw some light on it? Revitalization. Any answers?
Vital meaning of vital is to be active or not lazy or proactive.
That would relate to it. That would relate to it. Let me put it in simple terms. Yeah. For example, I think most of you from Coimbatore. Yeah, I'm just taking the example, just to make you clearly understand what it is all about. Say, for example, you're talking about Opanakara Street in Coimbatore. Yeah, we know the street is narrow. There are huge commercial shopping centers there, textile shops, eateries, whatever it is. Yeah, and there is a huge amount of traffic on this Opanakara Street. Now, you are a smart city developer. Yeah, you are probably one of the members sitting in the smart city board, and you have been asked to see how Opanakara Street can be, improved. How can it be revitalized? To look much pleasing, much better, much beautiful than whatever it is today. Yeah. So probably you need to restrict the flow of traffic. You could, in many European cities, you might have seen there are many streets which are only pedestrian only. There are no vehicles that will pass through it. That is only to create an experience, not, it is not done for any other specific reason that purposely there is no city bus traffic or something like that. It is done in order to give a better experience to the pedestrians. For example, you as a person, you have been told, can we improve Opanakara Street? Can we revitalize it? What can we do? So what you could probably say, yes, we can do that. Like European cities, we can make it pedestrian only, for example. There'll be no cars or buses or two-wheelers allowed in it. Only people can walk around and do their shopping. Yeah. You could probably say, yes, we can clad it with granite. We can lay granites for the pedestrian walkways. We can have beautiful street lights that looks better. We can have smart street lights that would be solar operated, switch on at 6 o'clock in the evening and switch off at 6 o'clock in the morning. You could say, yes, we can have better stormwater drainage so that water is not going to get stagnated when it rains. You as a person contributing for smart city can come up with many different suggestions. Yeah. So revitalization is nothing but where you improve, improve area or a street, to look much futuristic, much better, much beautiful, much user friendly, and it addresses the stormwater issues. It addresses the garbage issues. How do you do solid waste management in the specific city? This is exactly what you try and do. But then, yes, all you could say, yes, we can do this, we can do that. But then how do you come to a conclusion that you can do this and do that? You need to have tools. And the first tool that you will really ask for is a map of Opanakara Street. Or is a sketch, at least a basic sketch of Opanakara Street. To understand what is the length of the street, what is the width of the street, can we really make it a pedestrian-free or a vehicular-free street in order to improve pedestrian experience for shopping? Can we really do something about it? The first thing that you're going to ask is a sketch or a map or a piece of drawing of Opanakara Street. All right. So this is where civil engineers' role come into play. Yeah, wherein you can really think big and you can make it happen. But then you need to have the right tools to support it. You need to have the right tools to, come to that decision. All right. So am I clear in this example?
Yes, sir. It's clear, sir. Understood. Understand, sir.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I just told an example, but there are different other applications like urban model development feasibility. Okay, you have a development plan, but can it be feasible? Yeah. Can we just build huge shopping complexes everywhere, wherever we like? Yeah. No, you cannot do that. You need to have whatever you propose must be feasible, even if it is spent by the government. It has to be feasible, otherwise there is no purpose. You cannot just simply build an IT park in a very remotest location and you expect it to be feasible. Yeah. All you need to do is, firstly, you need to know who the users are, what are the revenues that come out of this building, and what is going to be the cost to build the building. All of this you need to bring it onto the table in order for you to come to a conclusion. Yeah. So GIS is a tool that helps you to do all of those. Yeah. Different smart city. I think what I've heard today in Bihar, I think I don't know the name of the city, but then they have automated the water supply. Every house will have drinking water supply, and it is automated. And meter readings of those water meters will be done remotely. There won't be a person going to every home and do it. Yeah. Let me give you one example that I proposed in one of these smart city meetings. People come for electricity readings. Yeah. It is still done physically in Tamil Nadu, where every 2 months there is a person who knocks the door and he looks for the meter reading and he goes away. Can we not simplify this? Can we not have a Bluetooth device attached to the energy meter, so that the Bluetooth device can transmit the data to the person, whoever is coming? He doesn't have to knock your house. He doesn't have to come in. He can just pass by your house and take the Bluetooth reading. What do you think of this idea? Anyone?
Yes, that's good.
Yeah, I just don't want you to stop here. Yeah, probably we will have a quick smart city session here. Can you share your own ideas how to make a city smarter? Anyone? I would expect most of you to join in this.
So at present, we have in a Google Maps, while we are traveling in a vehicle, it will say in which road there is a traffic, more traffic.
Yeah,
it will
exactly.
give a shortcut to.
Yeah. That point is covered. That point is covered in the next slide. But my question is, you as a person, yeah, you are in a, you are sitting along with the commissioner of the city. You as a person, you are asked to contribute. Give one idea, yeah, one idea to make this city smarter. What would that idea be? I'm trying to create, inside some motivation here, so that all of us can participate. Okay, let us wait for next 5-10 minutes and see if at least we have 10 ideas, 10 new ideas for a smart city. Anyone?
In any city, the main problem is commuting. That means traveling. So the office timings and the school timings should be scattered.
Wonderful.
So that school going traffic will be at different time. Office going traffic. So the roads will be almost free.
Very good. I think that is already in practice in different cities. I'm also, well, I appreciate your participation. I would like to look for much better ideas. That something is new. Probably I have never heard, or you have never heard, or the whole group who are listening here today have never heard at all. Something new. 10 minutes. So we are like, we'll wait until 11:45 to finish this discussion. Let us have 10 smart ideas that you would contribute as an engineer to a smart city.
To have a separate market area, means specific areas for specific items. Like especially the main problem in cities, other than traffic, is encroachment of the footpath. So we cannot walk on the footpath. So we have to what we call the push cart area or vegetables. Where we see every type of people who are selling, carrying on their hands also, like toys or footwear, handkerchiefs, etc. So the main problem in the city is because of the street vendors. Even we find difficult to walk on. We cannot, even in the roads also there will be parking. Parking will be there. Footpaths is also included. Even shopkeepers also hang their buckets or any items in the projected areas. So those things should be first eliminated to have a fair movement. And we feel happy to go for shopping outside.
Thank you, Rajendra Prabhu. Thank you. Yeah, anyone else? Give me your one suggestion for a smart city. How do you want your city to be smart? Anyone? I need all of you to participate, please. We'll make the session more interesting. Anyone?
Even the present.
Yeah, Mr. Rajendra Prabhu, I think you're very excited to give your answers. I welcome it. Yeah, nobody is participating. Yes, I would like to hear from you again. Yeah, Mr. Rajendra Prabhu, go ahead.
Especially while crossing the road. At present, we have automated traffic signals, but it is predetermined timings. So even the road is empty, also it will show red light.
Yeah,
So
you're
it
right.
should monitor the people with
Very
some
good.
other remote sensing, so that when the
Very
more people are there to cross the road, it should change the signal.
Very
timing.
good. Very good. Appreciate this. Appreciate this. Very good. Yeah. Vignesh?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, go ahead, Vignesh. What about you?
So I think waste management system, sir. So
Sorry?
question of waste management.
I didn't get you. Sorry.
So waste management, sir. So question of waste disposal processing, sir.
Yeah, go ahead and present your views.
So properly collecting the all municipal solid waste and industrial waste separately and hospital waste separately, and processing to make utilization for agriculture purpose. So proper disposals. My idea, sir.
Right. Very good. Very good. Very good. So how do you think, Vignesh, GIS and remote sensing can play a role in that? Try and give your version of it. How GIS can be applied to your idea?
So I think
Yeah, Vignesh. Give it a try. Give it a try. Right or wrong, we are not here to judge you. Yeah. Whatever it is, give your opinion.
So I think population growth, depending upon areas, depending on the population growth, the disposal waste can be calculated, sir.
Okay.
So number of populations and how much quantity may be disposal per day or week or month. So when calculated according to the data is available.
Okay. So see, I'll just take your thing as an example how we can integrate GIS with solid waste management. Yeah, you talked about industrial waste, you talked about different other waste. So the city administration could probably have a map. Yeah, could create a map. Time to time they would have to update it and identify the locations of those industries, identify the locations of those the source of waste that arises from different industries, hotels, restaurants, whatever they are. Yeah, they can very well know where these are located, and they can identify the dump areas or areas where incinerators are already there, where they can take it and process it, whatever it is. Yeah, so GIS can really help to identify, and they can track the devices. For example, if there is a garbage lorry, that is assigned for a purpose, you could have GPS integrated with the lorry, and you can really track if the lorry has went there to collect the waste and has it disposed at the allotted dump yard. Yeah. So this is how GIS and GPS come into picture in your specific example.
Yes, sir. Sure.
Yeah. So like this, there are multiple areas where GIS and GPS remote sensing can be used in order to manage cities properly. A smart city is not just going to get smart immediately after it gets built. It has to be smart and sustainable forever. Yeah, which means even after building the city, you need GIS and remote sensing and other technologies to manage it properly. Yeah, Vignesh. Thank you very much, Vignesh. Anyone else?
Thank you, sir.
Sir, I want to again join.
Yeah, Mr. Rajendra.
So there will be some thermal sensors, just like firefighting, fire extinguishing sensors, as you see installed in the buildings. We can monitor from some sensors that if there is a fire in a building, it should inform the fire.
Wonderful, Mr. Rajendra. Wonderful, Mr. Rajendra. Wonderful idea. I think this is something which can, deal with small scale fire accidents. Yeah. because large scale fire accidents, of course, it needs people intervention. When there is something really good for fire is something which has its legal binding to it. So it cannot happen automatically, but then it can be in place which can where there are issues like what you just said in smaller scale. Yeah, that can be used for sure. Yeah.
And,
Anyone else?
In
Yeah.
the same,
Yeah,
I'll
Mr.
continue.
Yeah, Rajat.
And that network should be in a smart city. That network should be so that right from the fire station till the point
Yeah.
of accident, that
Yeah.
road must be make zero traffic. So it should be all
Okay.
that signal network should be automated. That
Wonderful.
without the intervention of the policemen,
Yeah.
that should happen.
Yeah, Mr. Rajendra Prabhu, I'm sure it will happen in India in 2050. Yeah. Wonderful idea, but that's really smart. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone? I only see Mr. Rajendra Prabhu and Vignesh Kumar. Anyone? Can I randomly call names? Mr. Bernard Orubena? Aurabena? Anyone? Mr. Vinod Kumar? Anyone with an idea to create a city smart? Yeah. Okay. I think, yeah, that really helps. Yeah, at least we have two participants actively participating today. So we'll get into the slide part. Yeah, so I think we talked about smart cities enough. So integration of GIS and BIM. Okay, BIM, anyone? What is BIM?
Building information modeling or
Perfect.
management.
Perfect. Yeah. So building information modeling is nothing but the internal elements of the building are stated and they have their detailed specification in it. Yeah. When you click something, you will know exactly what this pipe is. You will know what is the quantity of the pipe, and you know where the pipe starts and how it runs from different locations, etc. So that is building information modeling. So GIS and BIM, if they can be integrated, I think we can create a much safe city wherein like what Mr. Rajendra Prasad just said, we are trying to have integration of GIS and BIM so that cities get much smarter and safe. That is really important. So again, GIS usage in noise pollution, crowd simulation. I see there's something here called crowd simulation. What is crowd simulation, anyone? Particularly in India. Anyone, just give your thought, whatever it is.
I have no idea. First time I'm hearing about that word crowd simulation.
Okay.
So usually crowd means a gathering of
Yeah,
people.
so exactly, it's nothing but gathering. So different time will have different sorts of crowd gathering in a place. For example, a bus stand or a railway station. Yeah. So the information related to the specific time where there is specific crowd movement will really help in deciding. Yeah. Now all these crowd simulation is done using different data collection methodologies. You have CCTV cameras, you have physical counting of people, you have these information, these data that are collected from different sources can be put to use on top of a GIS model, which can be integrated to a GIS model, and you can make a decision. Yeah. I'm trying to see if anyone can give an example of how the crowd information in that specific area would help in better decision making. Anyone? What are your thoughts? I appreciate to hear that. Anyone? Vignesh?
Sir,
Yeah. Give your thoughts, Vignesh. Try, give a try.
I have no idea, sir.
Okay. Say, for example, you have a railway station. Yeah. Most of the times, railway station is seldom, crowded in daytime, and probably the crowd starts getting around starting at 6 o'clock until 10 o'clock. All right. So you can really create a model that I'm just giving an example. Yeah, there could be many scenarios. I'm giving an example where the crowd is, so high. Therefore, there is a huge traffic in a specific road and the connecting roads. You could really create a traffic model. You could really, for any future development, you could really use the data, to see if we can redesign the railway station network, probably wherein gets into one place of entry and you can get out in a different location. Yeah. For all these decisions, you could really use this crowd data, the crowd simulation, and that can be effortlessly done using GIS technologies. I'm just giving you one example. There could be many others, wherein we are talking about smart cities, we are talking about better places to live. All this should ensure that particularly at this point in time where we are talking about COVID, we should be very cautious and make sure that there is no huge gathering of people. All this can be done effortlessly using GIS technologies. Landfill site selection, obviously you know that. So we are talking about using GIS where we can identify the land, low-lying land, using remote sensing. Particularly that land should have those properties for a landfill site. So you can integrate the data and make a site selection. City scan. Anybody have heard of LiDAR scanning? Anybody? LiDAR scanning?
So no, sir.
Okay. If you see the picture above, just above the city scan, yeah, you see the 3D models. You see the 3D models of buildings. Are you able to see that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So what that is nothing but every building in the city is scanned for its length, breadth, and height. Yeah. And such a model is formed so that you could use it for different other planning purposes. Yeah. Singapore, for example, I think they have almost completed the LiDAR scanning of the entire city. Now, this LiDAR scanning is nothing but a car-mounted laser equipment, which scans as you drive. It will scan the entire city. As you drive on a street, it would scan everything on your right-hand side or the left-hand side, whatever you have indicated it to do. So it will scan and it will create a map, and you can immediately geo-reference it and convert it as a proper GIS information data. Seismic slope stability. Anyone? Any idea of seismic slope stability? Why do we need slope stability?
So during rainfall seasons,
Exactly.
hilly areas,
Yeah.
to
Perfect.
easily identify to natural
Perfect.
disaster.
Perfect. So I'm going to give you a live example of the slope stability. Yeah. In Ooty, in the year 1998, there was huge rain and there was huge landslide, which killed, I think at least 500-600 people because of the landslide. Landslide occurs due to various reasons. Firstly, the slope degree is a major factor, and the type of material, the soil or the rock which is found in the slope is the next major factor. And obviously, if you have not done anything to stabilize the slope, in a likely event like what had happened in Ooty, huge rains could cause the slope to fail, and you have major disasters. So what has happened is it was sort of hard rock area, but the rock nature was soft. All right. When you look at it, it looks so hard. So what has happened is due to rain, the rain was, I think, for 3-4 days continuously pouring in, and nobody could expect that there could be some kind of slope failure. And it appears that huge lightning and thunder that caused the damage of this particular slope, which killed a lot of people. But then if you have used remote sensing or GIS at that point in time, identified all the slopes, and you do proper slope protection, probably you would have mitigated that loss. And here is where the significance of remote sensing and GIS comes into play. Hazards assessment. Yeah, so identify the high risk zones where polluting industries are there. You have earthquake zones. Identify all those, and you could really plot it on a GIS map, and make sure that there are no major residential zones coming up in those areas that could be harmful to people. So this is application of remote sensing on the urban development and the smart city. These are only few points. Yeah, there are 1,000 other applications. These are very collection of very few points. So the next one, of course, parking availability. This is another one. Yeah, I think today, if you in Western countries, if you go for to park your car, it itself is a very difficult exercise. You really find it's so difficult to find a parking slot. Probably if you have a information system where parking area is available, probably you have an application on your smartphone that helps you to identify where car parking is currently available. That can only be done using GIS. So this is one another application.
So, excuse me, I want to interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just like a parking system, you were just told where we can get information where it's available.
Yeah.
So same in that present day in Arogya Setu or some other app, we can see in Bangalore, I've seen there are websites where we can see in which hospital how many beds are there, how many oxygen are there, ICUs are there.
Yes.
Which hospital we get Covaxin.
That is one form of GIS. Yes, that is one form of GIS.
So availability or where it is full, all things can be got.
Exactly. That is one form of GIS. Yes, you're right. Yeah. Okay. Roads and traffic. For you to build new roads today, NHAI has built almost 4-lane, 6-lane, 8-lane roads across India, left, right, and center. Again, without remote sensing and GIS, this must not have happened so fast and quickly, because it was not just roads that were built. All the land that were adjacent to the roads were also bought, and the extent of the lands were measured using GIS tools. So it was a very significant exercise for the Indian government, where lakhs and crores of rupees were spent on that particular project. And without remote sensing, without GIS, this would have not happened, particularly in hilly terrain, like places in Maharashtra, Goa, where you'll have to plan for 4-lane or a 6-lane road on a real hill on the Western Ghats. I think all were done using GIS technologies. So this is something that we'll have to be really proud that India is having a very good system of road network. And then remote sensing and GIS were put to good use to plan this road development projects. Then have traffic impact study. Anyone, can you shed some light on this traffic impact study, which is very important thing? I think being a civil engineer, you can really choose this as a career. Anyone?
Actually, traffic impact study means it is the zone of accidents or zone of traffic jams, or the places where there is unmanned or places unmanned railway crossings, accidents happening at the unmanned railway crossings. So there, if there is accident, that road gets blocked, and we have seen such places. The traffic will be active for a 1 kilometer length, there will be full traffic jam. Especially in Delhi, also during the fog, we cannot see the road. So if one car gets hit, means there will be serial accidents. We have seen that.
Yeah.
So there are
Yeah, go ahead, please.
they are all the causes of accidents, which will impact the smooth journey of traveler.
Yeah, I appreciate your interpretation of TIS, but let me tell you what exactly TIS is all about. Yeah. Name one mall in your city. For example, in Coimbatore, Phoenix Mall or Fun Mall, for example. Yeah. So it is a place where people come in, go out frequently, particularly in the weekends, for example. Yeah. So when people get in and get out, there is a huge chance for traffic jams that happen on the access road for the mall. Yeah. So what you really need to do is you do a traffic impact study of that particular facility, that particular mall, yeah, to see how many cars could get in and how many cars could get out. What is the time they get in normally and what is the time they get out normally? So, for example, there should every roads in India now are very busy. Yeah, there's already moving traffic, and when you really, for example, people coming out of a mall, for example, say 8:30, 9:30, whatever it is, and there is a sudden increase in traffic where the whole road is blocked and people stay for 15, 20, half an hour on the road without any movement. Now the traffic is having an impact. Yeah. Now, in order for us to make sure that this traffic should not be impacted and there should always be a free flowing traffic, what we need to do is we make sure that there are different other traffic mitigation measures taken. For example, there could be different lanes within the mall. For example, if it is a huge mall, I'm talking about different lanes where vehicles could really wait, and there can be like controlled exit of vehicles. All these are the outputs of traffic impact study. But then for you to perform a traffic impact study, you need to have the information of the road. You need to know what is the width of the road and how long is the road after the mall, for example. You need to know what is the vehicular movement at any given point in time. What is the vehicular movement at 8 o'clock in the morning? What is it at 10 o'clock? What is it at 1 p.m.? What is it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon? What is it at 9 o'clock in the evening, for example? All this data collection is either physically done or using CCTV cameras, whatever it is. But then GIS is the tool that helps in collating all this data, getting it into a system, and you come to a conclusion. So this is what traffic impact study is. Yeah. The next point is intelligent transport system. Intelligent transport system. Now this is very much available on Google Maps now. If you look into the image on the right-hand side, you will see the green, orange, and red lines, and thicker red lines, darker red lines, where the darker red lines depict very huge traffic, thicker red lines depict huge traffic, orange is some sort of a moving traffic, and green is free and doesn't have any traffic. Now this facility is already available on Google Maps, but then this gets improved, this gets smarter every day, day by day. Again, all these are happening only because of GIS and the information that is inputted to create this red, green, orange, and dark red lines. Okay, we talked about urban applications. We talked about roads and traffic. I think we should also talk about the real estate industry, how real estate industry is using remote sensing and GIS applications. Yeah. If you look at the drawing on your right-hand side, that is my own construction project that we are presently constructing. Now, that is the land shape. Yeah, the red line is the land shape. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Audible, sir.
Okay. So the red line is the land shape, and we couldn't really, because it's a barren land, we couldn't really spot on exactly where the land is, where to start and where to finish. Without knowing we didn't have any latitude, longitude information. So what we did, the first thing is went onto the site and we marked the points, with the help of the corporation surveyor. We only marked the points. And the moment we started marking the points, we had the neighbors of this plot coming in to say, no, this point is wrong. Yeah, this is our land. Why are you marking it in our land? So we wanted to avoid this. So we know exactly what the extent of the site as per the property document, but we didn't have any scientific evidence. So what we did is we went on to mark all the latitude and longitude of the different points that we know are there. Yeah. So once we did that, we were able to translate it to into a GIS tool, and we got the shape of the land which exactly matched these site conditions. And we measured the land, and it was precisely what is written in the drawing. So this eliminated the dispute between the neighbors and the landowner, without which, yes, we could have probably found a solution after 3 months, 6 months, or probably we would have ended up in the court without any agreements going forward. Yeah, this is one major use that we really applied, and the customer was really happy, and we could make him come out of the situation. Yeah. So this is only to help you with an example. So property identification and dimensions. By doing this on the right hand side, we did this as a real-time example. Property identity. Yes, we are able to identify the property, the boundaries, and the extent. Yeah. Okay. Now that, for example, you are a developer, you did an apartment in an area that was very successful. That was very successful due to the location advantage. The location advantage had a hospital, had a school, had a college, had different other facilities near the apartment area. But you need to grow your business. Yeah, you need to find other plots where you have similar characteristics for you to be successful. So you go in search of other plots. And how do you do that? Probably you go by someone who would refer you to say, okay, we'll have a plot in a different area. Yeah, I know a plot which is near a school, but there is no college or a shopping mall or something else. So what you could do is you can use GIS to identify those, and you could really identify a new plot for you to build. And even for buyers, GIS helps to make better choices. They could really identify the area. For example, Chennai, there was a huge flood that happened in Chennai. Most of the area were low-lying, and water, was all over stagnant. But there were areas where which were free of water. I think that map is available now today with Chennai Corporation. The areas that had waterlogged, the areas that didn't have waterlogged, for example. So people can really rely on those information and make better choices. Retail sector, all the malls have retail outlets in them. All the malls, major brands in them, and the brands, use GIS for making their decisions. What shop to open, what kind of dresses to be sold, what are the characteristics of the buyers in that specific area. All of these are decided. Yeah. So GIS and remote sensing have always been and is continuing to be a very promising tool for to make precise decisions for be it a multi-billion-dollar engineering project, or even for a retailer to really identify what sort of shop to be open, what kind of items to be sold on shop, etc. So this comes to an end of my presentation, dear friends, and I hope I have presented the information, the application part of GIS and remote sensing. So I'm open to any questions that you would like to ask me.
Sir, so Vignesh,
Vignesh, yes, Vignesh.
Sir, so how to measure the rainfalls, flooding and drought mapping, sir, using GIS and remote sensing?
Come again.
So flood and drought mapping, sir.
So yeah, so it is. So
GIS?
again, so you for example, the areas where it was flooded. Yeah. As a member of probably a university or a college who is responsible to collect the data, you probably have volunteered that specific day and measured the height of water in that area which was stagnant. Yeah, it was probably to the 1 foot or 2 foot or 3 foot, and you make a record of it. Yeah, on the GPS location, you just mark the GPS location and say 3 feet. Yeah,
Okay.
and probably you went to different areas, and all your friends, say 50 other friends, went to 50 other areas. Yeah, once you come, you have corrected the data and you have sat in the laboratory. You enter all those information, and you will immediately get a model. Yeah, one area with 1 foot, one area with 5 foot, one area with 6 foot, one area with 2 foot, whatever it is, you immediately get a model, and you generate the model and you link it to the map. When you overlay whatever information you have plotted onto the map, you will immediately know where the areas has high water, where it was less. So this is how you map the thing.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So participants, if you have any queries, so please ask now. So participants, you have any queries?
Vignesh, I'm not looking at the chat box for an obvious reason. So if there are any queries on the chat box, you can read it out.
So there is no queries, sir.
Okay.
So please, if possible, sir, PPT with us also. So one
I'll
of participants
certainly
asking.
share the PPT. I'll certainly share the PPT with you, and
Okay,
you can
sir,
pass your questions to my email address, and I'll give you the answer. The best possible answer for the question. So
Okay, sir.
I think we are at the end of the session. Yeah.
Yes, sir. So many participants appreciate your presentation, sir. It's very informative, nice session.
Okay.
It's very
Thank you.
participants. So, okay, sir.
Thank
So
you.
thank you so much, sir. So for
Thank you
wonderful
very much.
session, sir. So for
Thank you. Thank
spending
you very much.
valuable time and providing wonderful information, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
So participants, kindly fill the attendance link. Day 4 session is posted in chat box. So participants, kindly join this day 5 session tomorrow morning 10:30 a.m. So same Google Meet link to be followed. So thank you all for your active participation in the FDP. So kindly fill the attendance link. It posted in chat box.
Gracias.